Happy Friday. I'm Kate Lincoln Goldfinch.
I'm Hannah Hembry Bell.
We are Law Moms Out Loud, and we are here today with a special guest, Laura Kelley, who is a certified life coach, an attorney. She has a podcast. And Laura, I don't know if you know this, but I heard about you through some of the attorneys who work at my firm. And in preparation for this show this morning, I messaged one of them, Jackie, shout out to you. And I said, hey, tell me what you love about Laura. And she said, oh my God, her podcast is amazing. She talks about everything from organization to social justice to burnout. She keeps it short and sweet. It's so relatable and focused on immigration lawyering, but it's also applicable to other fields of law and just being a young professional woman in general.
Love that. Well, and hey, we're so excited to have you today. So we at Law Moms Out Loud are working to help lawyer moms grow as moms, lawyers, and people. And as the joyful attorney, I imagine a lot of what you do and we do is like the same. We were just saying before we came on, we're like, oh my gosh, we need to be real life friends. Former Texas girl, now in Florida, along with everybody else. So Laura, we're super glad you're here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And look, it's Texas forever. Like, I will not claim Florida. You know, once you're Texan, you're never not a Texan. So having said the Texas pledge my entire childhood, I'm fully indoctrinated. So you can
and a Valley Texas girl, right? Like, that's a special kind of Texan. We got a lot of those on my team, and I know they're going to love seeing you here. So.
Well, and Laura, it's like, I was thinking whenever we were going to talk with you, like, okay, there are so many, like I always say, I have so many questions. So maybe you could start a little bit just to orient people. A lot of the people who listen to us, I think, listen to you. So that is super fun. But maybe you want to orient a little bit. The Joyful Attorney, I think it's more than just a podcast, right? You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an immigration attorney. I've been an immigration attorney since I moved back to the United States from Spain. And that was in 2013 when I had, she was 3 months old when we came back to the United States from Spain, and really found a true passion and calling for immigration law. But during the Trump administration, I found myself losing my mind. And I know that a lot of my colleagues were losing their minds, and particularly in the lead up to the 2020 election. And so at the same time I was getting my coach certification, I thought I was going to be more of a wellness coach. I had lost 50 pounds, super obsessed with fitness and nutrition. And so I was like, I discovered myself to be an athlete in my late 30s. So that's where I was headed. But what I found was there was a real need in my community for thought work, for mindset, for survival. Yeah. And so that really developed into the Joyful Attorney. So I initially started offering like 6-week courses on things like time management, on boundaries, on procrastination. That morphed into one-on-one coaching. And now from one-on-one coaching, I've moved into the space of group coaching and having a subscription-based group coaching program where we do live coaching once a week. We have content in the portal, and we also have support through WhatsApp chats and just book clubs. I did a mindfulness course last month, and I'll be doing a self-compassion course coming up in September. So it's just a way of integrating what it means to be a lawyer, not just an immigration lawyer in this world, and doing the best we can. Not everybody's a mother, but certainly being a mother, being a woman, and being an attorney, trying to make that all work is tough. And we need to support each other. And so I'm trying to develop that space to support each other in our personal and professional growth and development.
So fellow immigration attorney here who survived the Trump administration. And here, totally with you. That was rough. And it's still pretty rough. Here's my question, because I know Hannah and I both have our own self, discovery, personal development, mindset work journey. And there was a moment at which something shifted. And usually there was like a book or a teacher or a mentor or something that just opened up that whole world for us. So how did that begin for you? What did you find?
Oh man, that is so true. And the person I think that first really shifted my perspective was Cara Lowenthal. She does the Un-F Your Mind podcast. Mm-hmm. And when I started listening to her, it literally uneffed my mind. And from her, I said, I want to know her teacher. And so from her, I went to Brooke Castillo, and I did her coaching program for a couple of years. And she is the person who runs the coach certification program that I went to. So it's a very comprehensive, really heart-centered approach to coaching, to life coaching. And it completely shifted everything for me. And I can say this, like what ultimately made the tremendous transformation that I have experienced in the last, I would say 4 to 5 years, has been the idea that our thoughts create our feelings, which drive our actions to produce our results. Prior to learning that and really accepting it, I believe that circumstances created my feelings, and that I was a victim of circumstance. And how terrible, you know, came from a broken home, and I lived in poverty, and I'm a victim, and everything sucks, and it's always going to suck, and all of that, to actually taking extreme, radical, personal responsibility for my feelings, my actions, and my results. And I have never looked back.
Here.
Yeah. Well, because is the Joyful Attorney your side hustle or your full time? Do you still have the immigration firm?
Oh yes, it's my passion project.
Yeah, we can relate.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I actually went. So I had, I had time to develop the coaching during COVID. So I started doing my coach certification in 2020, and I was like, oh, well, we have time right now because, the firm was, really, really slow. And at that time I was in partnership. I had just gone into partnership with another immigration attorney in June 2019. So, 6 months later, essentially, and the pandemic hit. So I had time, we had support, we managed to keep everybody employed over the course of the pandemic, and I was one of the only people in the office, scanning mail, keeping everything running while everybody else was remote. So, it was a lot more balanced, I would say, in that moment. But in March of this year, I went back to a solo practice. So that's like beyond a full-time job, trying to get that firm up and running. And now also that's why I've had to like stop doing one-on-one coaching in order to kind of focus one aspect of the passion project, which is the Joyful On Demand group coaching program.
Well, and I think probably a lot of people, like we're in some different Facebook groups and stuff where lawyers are considering doing side hustle sort of things. I mean, there's coaching, people do all kinds of different stuff. So how do you have to practice what you preach to balance doing your, law firm owner, lawyer gig and this thing you love to do?
Oh, I'm so ashamed. I haven't been. I talked about this in one of my last podcasts, actually, about how I have not been practicing what I've been preaching, which is I have been just running myself into the ground, no balance, working 7 days a week. And I've had to stop doing that. So I am, constraining. That's why I'm really taking a hard look at where I'm spending my energy. For example, I for the last 3 years, I've been a Girl Scout leader in my daughter's troop, and I have to say no more. That's the one place where I've pulled away. I'm not doing the one-on-one coaching. I'm leaving an organization that I've been a part of for a while. So I'm starting to recognize, listen, the reason why I preach what I preach is because it's sustainable. It is, it's what, prevents burnout. And I am definitely starting to say, okay, there's a time and a place to hustle. And certainly when you're going back to solo practice, the 4 months after that is there's some, I think, wiggle room and grace to be given for hustling. But now it's like, okay, I recognize this kind of lifestyle is not sustainable for me in the long term. So constraint.
Well, this is interesting because this sort of brings up the staycation, my whole staycation problem. So,
could you give Kate some coaching?
Yeah.
Yes. Let's talk about that.
Because here's what we came to. So we had a trip. My family had a trip planned. We ended up staying home because of COVID, but we were all fine. And so then I was like, I'm going to do a staycation at my house and I'm going to rest. Like everybody says you're supposed to rest and give yourself downtime, but I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. I felt like this pent up energy that I wanted to be creating and doing. And it wasn't actually restful. It was more painful for me to sit around than to hustle. And so my takeaway from that is that, there's a time and place for everything, like you said, Laura, but maybe rest just looks different for different people. And sometimes if you want to hustle, that could be the way that you get yourself more energy at the end of the day. I don't know. That's sort of I don't really like staycations was my other takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's just one way to be in this world. I don't think that there's one personality type or one right. Yeah, there's just not one right way. And I think you're right, Kate, yes, rest is different for different people. I don't know about you, but I've been fantasizing about what I'm going to do when tonight I win $1 billion. Will I work? Will I not work? So, I personally don't see myself being the kind of person who even retires. Right. I love what I do. And I like this idea that you said about creation, innovation, doing something. I think, where people who want to manifest a change, and that requires action, right? So I think that action is, I don't think that rest and action are mutually exclusive. I think when it means what, for me, I look on rest as almost like on a micro scale. So I couldn't envision myself taking a month sabbatical to do nothing,
Yeah.
Let me say this. When I during the Trump administration, I used to fantasize about maybe going to federal prison. I don't know about low security, minimum security, but
right.
to read, a time to, just not have to do anything. And, but that's, again, when you think about something like, I don't know, going to a minimum security prison, I'm like, what all the books I could read. Yeah. That's not not doing anything,
When I think too, the way I think about rest and that, balance, I hate when people say about balance. I just think as moms, lawyers, and people, we don't have balance. Some area is always losing. Yeah. It's just kind of like who's going to be losing in this area today, at least in my perspective. And for most of the people that we know, that's usually the person, that's you, right? And to me, it's about trying to recalibrate that so the person loses less. And I think those times where I feel rested, and what I mean is, for me, that means having energy, not depleted, not hitting a wall at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, as I do sometimes. Mm-hmm. To me, that's about margin and having a little bit of margin in your life. Mm-hmm. And I usually never do. Every day, even my team, if anybody's watching, it's going to be like, oh my God, I'm trying to schedule something with a client or for me personally or whatever. It is back to back to back to back all the time. Yeah. And every once in a while, there'll be a day where I had a mediation and it settled. And I'm like, don't tell anybody that it's settled. Keep the day blocked. And a day where I have a minute between things to think, that's when I feel restful. Mm-hmm. So I think it's about, and I don't know, I'm sure something in your teachings, we've gone through some of it, but not all of it. We're now raving fans. But this idea of maybe rest for law moms looks like some margin in your day, in your week, your life.
And I completely agree with that. And that's what I was going to say with the micro rest, in that, finding a way to live sustainably. And again, I agree with you. I don't think balance doesn't necessarily mean, a perfect, even split. We spend most of our day at work. So, and that's always going to come out with a different balance for us. But for example, there are things that we can do, like you said, to make the person, a greater focal point, because I think especially as women, as moms, we put ourselves last. Whenever we put I'm a huge proponent of block scheduling. So one of the ways I have been able to hustle and do all the things that I've been doing on my plate is because I live and die by a very rigorous block scheduling mechanism that I teach, right? That it is, everything's back to back, but I put in buffer time, right? So I make sure that buffer time needs to be put in for me, because otherwise I will lose it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I need that too, because I'm so back to back. And those are the days when at the end of the day, I often say, like, I feel like a towel that's been wrung out. And that's when I'm like, don't even have time to go to the bathroom. And I often say to myself, like, it's okay to go to the bathroom. Like, I deserve to pee.
Yeah, absolutely. But you also deserve to have, your team know how to schedule you so that you have some time, in between consults, for example, so that you are able to reset, go to the bathroom, have a coffee, breathe, maybe do 10 minutes of mindfulness. I'm a huge proponent of putting in these little break times. Also, I always say, schedule your time first. So first and foremost, in order to be rested, we need to actually sleep. And I think we had
my aura ring doesn't lie.
Yeah. Kate's good at this. I'm not good, because I love mornings and I love night. I'm just an awake person. I like to be awake and doing cool stuff. And so, because he was like, are you a morning or a night person? I'm like, well, I like to be up early and getting a lot of things done, and it's quiet and I can be creative, but I really like to stay up till like at least midnight. So like midnight to 5:30 is not it will make you get sick and grouchy and exhausted, and you can't exercise because you're a mess and whatever.
Mm-hmm. And it ultimately unsustainable over the long term, because it is, your cortisol levels will increase, which will increase insulin. There's a lot of like biochemical issues with not getting enough sleep. And yeah, we have, plenty of stimulants that can,
like down in the coffee still.
Exactly. Keep us going. But like, ultimately, I think just making certain changes to get that, maybe that 5.5 to 6.5 or 7 can make tremendous.
7 is my number. If I'm at 7, then I'm trying to get where, like, because I've been going to the gym in the mornings. So I made a small deal with myself that I guess I'm saying it out loud now, but I haven't like made it a whole thing, because I'm just
manifesting now.
We're trying it. Yeah, is 7 hours of sleep. And that when I go to bed, whatever decision I made, I'm going to sleep my 7 and then deal with the consequences. And like, but I'm not going to get up and go to the gym if I didn't get 7, because I think it like eats into a deficit. And like, I don't know, some woman on Instagram who's very fit said, if you don't sleep 7 hours, don't go work out. It's like, okay, good enough for me. But trying to get that, I agree, as like the foundation thing upon which we build. For me, it's 7. And then but I mean, it's like, also maybe you could talk, and I'm not trying to turn this into a sleep thing, but for my body, would be such a war for my mind and body and my life schedule to ever try and be in bed before 10:30. Really, my body wants to be like, a decently disciplined bedtime for me is 11. Like by the time all my kids, because I've got big kids and stuff too. And until I sit down, and I guess there's an appreciable period of time I want to, read a book or do whatever at night. That's 11. But I mean, do you think there's a way, like, is there any wisdom on, do I fight that to make them more sleep, or just kind of understand that about myself and work around it? I don't know.
I think there's either way. And the question is, there's no wrong answer. The only way, the only issue is, do you like your reasons? If you like your reasons for 11 p.m. bedtime, then go for it. It's just, that's it. Do you like your reasons? And
that's a good question. Great question.
And here's the thing. Can you be honest in your reasons? Because our brain will give us a lot of reasons why you can't possibly go to bed before 11, So taking a really hard look at what your reasons are, and then ultimately, do you like them? For me, I'm with you. I have the same issue. I'm up. My alarm is set for 5. I like to work out in the mornings. And well, I don't want to say
I do.
To get to work at 10 and have a very like chill that's just not my reality. So in order to get the things I want done, 5 a.m. is my wake up time. And so in order to get the 7, I count back from that. So maybe if it were 6, you can count back from that to 11 as well. But like, is that the right math?
Yes.
But the, ultimately, I think it's good to have a routine. And I always tell people to work back from your wake up time. And then from there, have wiggle room. Like first deciding how do you want your morning to be? So if you have an ideal morning of this is how much time I would like to lay in bed. I'm one of those people. I have to have a full cup of coffee in me before I actually start doing anything. So I need some lounge time to like have it absorb into my body. Like
that feels like does that just make you feel so good about like your life must be going okay if you wake up and have a full cup of coffee before you get out of bed? Is that how you feel?
No, it feels like I need to get going, like I'm gonna be on. Like I mean, normally I spend more time than I would like doing the coffee and the bed and the phone thing. But I would love for it to be less on the phone, more just drinking the coffee, thinking about the day, and then moving forward into putting on the workout clothes, doing the workout, and then moving through the rest of the morning. But again, I'm an imperfect human, I'm just trying to do my best. But I do suggest starting with what you want your morning to look like, ideally, and then working backwards from that, and then working backwards from that. Okay. So, for example, if you have a bedtime that would be ideal for you, you can shift it. You can shift it from 11 to something else. And I also recommend having a what is it called? The buffer time before bedtime, where you wind down. That's it. Wind down time, where you put away the devices, or you maybe have a routine of a meditation or reading a book. Not the television, not the scrolling, not the things that are going to hit the dopamine and have us, activated, but something that allows us to set that routine so we have a restful sleep. And then, ideally the 7 hours, and then our lovely, luxuriating morning.
Yeah, Hannah's got her poems at night.
Yeah, I do. That's usually like I'll try. Things are going pretty good if I get to a point where I have my Sleepy Bear tea and read some poems for 15 minutes before I go to bed. That's when I'm like centered and do it.
That's amazing.
Oh, it's the best. And then she texts the really good ones. And
I love that.
Nice poem from Hannah. Yeah.
I can add you.
I literally got chills.
Good poem text.
Yeah,
if you
want. Yes, please put me in that chat.
Yes, it's the best. Poems are the best. Yeah. I mean, I think that like that's what people were doing before there was Instagram and whatnot for forever, right? They were like back, I don't know, they're writing. I'm literally picturing Pride and Prejudice in my head. I assume that's what they were doing. Mr. Darcy was sitting around writing poems.
Poetry. Yeah. So scrolling. Okay.
Can I tell you, it has never occurred to me to read poetry before bed.
Oh,
it's never occurred to me.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, I talked about this last week, this book, I Am Her Tribe, and it's Amazon. I'd seen it on Instagram or something, and like page by page poetry. It is so good. Your like community will love it. Another one is Margaret Atwood made a book of poems.
I did not know this.
Okay, here's the thing. So my entire poetry, I love Mary Oliver, Forever and Ever Amen. Yeah. And so I'd be like, I love poetry. And what I really mean is I love Mary Oliver plus Robert Frost, Two Roads Diverged in a Wood. That was the extent. And then I had the idea of like, this is my big idea at the bookstore. I bet there's other poems to read. And I was asking like very out loud because the bookstore, the like book people, the local one here, it feels a little bit like a library in there, but I'm like, it's not actually a library. I can talk about it if I want to. And I was telling my husband, Dre, I was like, hey, I need to find a book that's like a bunch of good poems. I don't have time to go through the entire works of somebody that's going to have some BS in there and some good. I was like, I need just someone to have already, and then I was like going on and on about a book, where it'd be like and some like random store customer, she was like, hey, honey, I think you're talking about an anthology. That's what that's called. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And then some girl takes me. There's a whole poetry section. Who knew? And you don't even have to be like a coffee shop 20-year-old college student. They'll let you buy them, whoever you are. There's another book. It's called Good Poems. Some NPR guy. Y'all may know. I'm not an NPR.
I'm like taking so many notes right now.
Okay. Well, there you go. So this NPR person who a lot of people know, in Van, Texas, we didn't listen to NPR. I only ever heard of that in college. And, but anyway, some guy who had some show where he would read poems has a book called Good Poems. So naturally,
was it Garrison Keillor?
Yeah, that's him.
Oh, Very Young Companion.
Yeah, that's him. And so I got the book of just good poems, and they're kind of by topic. And really, honestly, it can add the way music can add something to your life, poems can do that. So we have these 3. I'm just going on and on about this.
We love
I love it. Please. No, this is amazing. This is great information.
Oh, well, it's a treat. I think it's a good thing because like part of this whole journey to me is about getting to know ourselves.
Yes.
And I've always been like thoughtful in this way, loved good quotes, good this, good that, and was drawn to different poem stuff. And just never gave myself the time to explore. I never gave a crap about what I like or what I care about. So for me, I say things are just for my own sake. That's my like last few years thing I'd say. I'm going to do this just for my own sake. And I had kids, started having kids when I was 23. Straight out of college, married straight into babies. I didn't really have much for my own sake time. And so poetry is that for me. So now in our office study room, there are this whole wall of bookshelves, and there's a whole poetry shelf now with a whole bunch of stuff in there. So that's one of the things for me that was exploratory, and to say like, oh, I like this for my own sake. And I am the sort of person who does this. And so it feels very good to me to have that.
So I want us to nerd out a little bit because I like nerding out on technology and the time management conversation. I'm very thrilled about this.
I know.
Idea.
We're ready.
You know what I'm going to show. So Hannah and I are remarkable tablet users.
I'm new.
I am an iPad with a pencil person.
Yep.
But
Yes.
but the same thing. I want to handwrite on my device. So I feel you.
So like I'm in love with, I have this PDF on here that it's a calendar. You can jump around. You can put your
wait, somebody says that about the poetry, the comments.
Oh, someone says they have poetry books to add to your
We
shelf.
can see the comments. Like, it says Facebook user. I'm sure I know who that is, but it just doesn't show us your name.
We also have someone who says they did listen to NPR.
Is that a Van Texas person like calling me all my time?
Identify yourself, person. Anyway, like this is I can't live without it. And I use Google Tasks, and time management is just very fun to discuss and refine. So I'm curious.
Well, and in the context of like her work with mindfulness and stuff like that, I think, one thing we just talked about, just like the context would be like things we do for our own sake. The other thing would be like how to actually get all the things done, right? I think would be a key to being a joyful attorney, right? So with this, how does that make it more joyful for you to use that?
Oh, it's the same. For me, it's like the little pin that I found and the little this and the task board and all of the little gadgets just make it more fun and exciting for me. But I'm thinking about, Laura, you have a whole course on time management and block calendaring, and you talk to busy lawyers all the time about how they manage all of this stuff. What are the key points that you teach as part of that course?
Well, I also want to say, like, I love this, the thing that you have with your Remarkable. The whole reason why I initially got an iPad was to do digital calendaring and then stickers. So I got I am total ADD. I get into something really hard and then it kind of, dissolves, but and it's a work in progress. But one of the things I got into was the planners and like the stickers and the planner stickers and having fun with that. And that was, for me, was just like more like a crafting, a little bit of, journaling. So using that to write maybe my 3 gratitudes a day, manifestations to write every day. So having something to actually physically write on. So that paper planner then morphed because they're so big. And then you have to have all this organization for the stickers. I discovered digital planners and digital stickers. So they're like these people who actually create digital stickers. You can have a digital sticker book and you can do the exact same thing that you would do with paper, except in a digital format. And it's in color. And so I don't want to hate on the Remarkable of just saying like the iPad has a lot of things that you can do with GoodNotes and Notability that is fun and beautiful, and it allows you to, very colorfully do your manifestations and gratitude. And I'm a huge fan of llamas. And so there's like llama stickers, like llamas drinking coffee. I don't know, just find that enjoyable. But that's more of a journal. For me, in terms of like the time management piece, so first and foremost is I use Google. That's where my office uses to organize the G Suites for all of our email and calendaring and whatever else. And so my digital calendar is it integrates with my practice management software. That's where we put all of our appointments, and that's where I also put all tasks. So one of the things that I teach in time management as part of block scheduling is to take that task list. I think you mentioned having a task list. From getting rid of the task list and taking it and putting it as appointments to yourself on your calendar. Mm-hmm. So rather than, you mentioned that you're an immigration attorney. So for example, if you have a brief that's due or something that you need to, put a larger chunk of time into, breaking that down into chunks. So rather than put brief, right, you want to break it down into draft the facts, research issue 1 or outline the issue, whatever, break it down into pieces, take each individual piece and put that as tasks into your calendar. And then you do that with all tasks. So if it is, update, I don't know, something or whatever task that you can possibly think of that takes time, you figure out how much time it's going to take you more or less, and you put it on the calendar. And so that way and that's why I think it's really important also to put that buffer time in there, your free time. Like, this is my lunch time. This is my overflow time, so that you have space for if things don't work out exactly as you plan them, because that's life, right? And have everything scheduled that way. Mm-hmm. And then, so again, for me, the planner aspect is more, writing my gratitude or, writing my manifestations or something I enjoyed today, or just a place to put stickers. But
well, and to that end, so we talked a little bit about discovering ourselves, a little bit about task management. I was sitting here thinking of all the work that you've done, being a lawyer, practicing, having your firm, doing this work. If you had to think of the top 3 things that law moms could do to be more joyful, to bring more joyfulness to their life, what would those be?
Ooh, okay, let's see. 1 would be sleep. Make sure that you're getting sleep. To me, that is fundamental, and everything comes from there. Mm-hmm. And it's probably the hardest thing, I think, like we were talking about. I would say also, this is going to be hard, and I think it's going to be really controversial.
Say it.
I would say reduce alcohol consumption. Right? I think that's a huge one that I think isn't talked about enough, but it also ties in with the first. Alcohol really does a number on our sleep cycles. And I think that if we can take a hard look about how much we're drinking and where we can find reduction, I think that is huge. And I think that a big piece for me in finding joy in my life has been coming with the decision of becoming sober. So that's my own experience. I'm not saying everyone needs to be sober, but certainly I think taking a good hard look at what we're consuming in terms of alcohol. I think often we drink in order to deal with our stress, and we're adding a layer of stress to our lives that could be dealt with in other ways. And I think the third piece would be to every day put yourself first in some way. So whether that be taking the time to go for a walk, do a meditation, do some yoga, work out, read your poems, listen to your music, but taking time out of your day for yourself. Because in line with what you were saying earlier, Hannah, we definitely have this tendency to put ourselves last, and we're the person that we break our own appointments with the most. Mm-hmm. But to enjoy, if we're not going to enjoy our lives right now, we're going to continue to put it off and put it off and put it off. And that time may never come. And so it's like right now, what you can do is put yourself first in one way every single day. And it feels selfish, I think, at first, or it feels indulgent. But it is one, it teaches our children a really great lesson, which is we matter, right? We are important.
Mm-hmm.
And our kids need to see that too. We can't, it's the Giving Tree book is awful.
It's the worst book ever.
It's awful. I mean, like, it's like when you're a kid, my daughter loves it. I'm like, my God, what am I reading? No, but you can't, like, our kids need to see what it's like to how grown adults manage their lives in a way that's realistic. And we need time to ourselves. We can't just be giving. There will be nothing left. We'll get depleted. And I think that's where a lot of dissatisfaction comes. And I think that's the thief of joy, is just being dissatisfied. And for me, joy is like just the gratitude for all of the blessings that we have. And sometimes it could be as simple as taking, 10 minutes, to enjoy some tea, just anything that nourishes our souls. It's important every single day.
Well, and this concept of it being selfish, that you want 10 minutes to do something for yourself, is complete and total bullshit. I'm just going to say, I was trying not to cuss today, but the notion that like we only get to live our lives once, like this is it. And behind your own eyeballs, from your own perspective, is all you get to do. So the idea that you would live 24 hours a day, all day, only for others is messed up.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing, number one, they're not doing it for you. Mm-hmm. Number two, it doesn't actually make anybody happy, because we find that joy. I mean, I really mean joy. We find that joy within ourselves. So you burning yourself to keep someone else warm, giving that to them, it's not actually going to make them joyful, because they have to do it for their own selves.
Exactly.
So if you give everything to them, it's not going to make anyone better. And then, because I'm re-listening to my first mindfulness mindset book thing is The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, right? I found it. Yeah. Like Amazon, it found its way to my cart before I even knew that this was a whole thing. And the re-listening to that after I've studied a lot more and know a lot more about that is very interesting. Mm. And obviously, for anybody who hasn't read that book, the central premise, in fact, is we only ever experience life in the now. Yeah. The past and present are in a lot of ways illusions. We don't experience past. We don't experience present. No, we don't experience past or future, right? It's just like time moving through you. You only ever experience life in the now. And I think as lawyers, we're always planning for the next deadline, the next case. When this period of time is over, things will finally get better. When my kids are this big, we're so future focused, or really mean to ourselves for how we messed up in the past. Mm-hmm. And we rob ourselves of having any human experience because we're never present. And I think, right, if this is our life, like we all can agree, this is our life, individual life. That's it. No one else can live our life for us. And you get one shot at it. And if all you're ever doing is either A, everything for everybody else and nothing for you, or B, planning for the future or beating yourself up about the past, then you haven't lived it all. Wouldn't that be the saddest thing you ever heard?
Squandering your presence. You're squandering your present. That's exactly it. It's living in a way like all we have is this present moment, and we spend so much of it not being here right now.
Yeah. And you did a retreat with Eckhart Tolle. I heard on one of your podcasts, right? Did you go to actually one of his retreats? Yes. How was it?
Oh, tell us everything.
Well, I have to say this, like, I originally got The Power of Now. Can we nerd out on Eckhart Tolle real quick?
Yes,
Yeah.
Because I love this. I love this story. I first got The Power of Now. Someone gave it to me as a gift when I was in law school. So I want to say it was in like 2003, 2004. And I never read it. I was like, what is this? Woo woo. I'm not
Weird.
into this. I'm not into spiritual new age, nada. And then a few years ago, somehow I got The Power of Now. A New Earth.
Yeah.
And I read it. And it was one of those mind-blowing moments where something shifted and I was like, this is the truth. Like, it just came out to me like, this is the truth.
Yeah.
And I listened, I'm like getting chills even thinking about it. Then I listened to it on audio, reread the book again, and then read The Power of Now. So I think they all work. I mean, the lessons are fundamentally all the same. So again, that was a huge mindset shift for me. And again, it's in line with what I coach too, which is nobody makes you feel anything, right? It's all guided by our own interpretations. Eckhart talks about the form identity. So one way of thinking about our ego is a form identity, the identities that we wear that we think are our personalities, that they think that who we are, but really there's something deeper still who we are, which I guess is another subject for another day. But one of the things he talks about is that whatever you think, this is the thing I talked about, being a victim, moving from victimhood into radical responsibility, he says, whatever you think the world is keeping from you, give to the world. And not in a self-sacrificing way, like not like give of yourself so completely that you don't exist. It's just like really take a hard look at what you think you're lacking. And it's literally because you're not giving it. So, if you think you're missing out on love, being somebody who is loving and giving of love unconditionally with boundaries will result in you experiencing love, because the only person who can experience love is you in any moment, right? We think we give love to other people, but that's in their own heads. Like, we give love to ourselves, and when we give it to other people, we give it to ourselves.
Ooh,
So in terms of the retreat, I went to see Eckhart Tolle in Arizona. I think it was 2 months ago, and it was supposed to be in 2020, May of 2020, but it got changed. It was really awesome to sit in the presence of someone you consider a spiritual teacher, and he's funny, and it was powerful. But it wasn't like a typical retreat. I guess I'm used to doing mindfulness retreats, like silent retreats. So it wasn't like that. And also I got a COVID scare. So I ended up I could only go to 2 days. And on the third day I had to stay in my hotel room and stream it, let me put it like this. I had 32 pages of notes on my iPad.
Wow.
Well, and it's so interesting because, and one of the things that struck me this morning, I was, walking on the treadmill and he was talking about I have no idea. I just pictured myself walking on the treadmill. Totally lost.
Well, while you're thinking of that, I want to circle back, and you probably know what I'm going to say, is the number 2 on your list, the part about sobriety, because I've been public about my own journey with sobriety, and I stopped drinking alcohol 18 months ago, but it wasn't, in my mind, people are either problem drinkers, they're normal drinkers, or they're problem drinkers and then they're sober. And that the people who don't drink anymore had, a problem with alcoholism. And that was a very black and white situation in my mind. And what I discovered, I wasn't intending to stop drinking. I did a detox. And as part of my detox, I started reading, sober lit, they call it, like all of this, Sunshine, Warm, Sober, Quit Like a Woman, like this whole series of books that talk about, there's this movement of people who are like me, called the gray area drinkers, who realize that it's not serving them, but it's not like your life is falling apart, and just opening your eyes to sober curiosity. And so I just want to echo and jump in and give support for that to anyone who's like, kind of curious about that. There's a whole bunch of books out there, and there's a whole movement and a whole community of people who are talking about this stuff, but not in a you have a problem and you have to stop kind of way.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with that. And I have to say, I think my life was falling apart when I decided to stop drinking. So I just want to say that, but not in the way that I think we think about like alcoholics, right? So I wasn't somebody who, had, the fifth of vodka or something in my desk drawer that had to drink at all times. Didn't wake up and drink. I didn't have, I don't know, just like what you think stereotypically, what is a problem? And I think this idea, this sober curiosity movement is amazing, because when you can start to make these, again, small, consistent changes over time, and you see the great benefit that comes from your life, when you make a small shift, it's incredible. Like, it is really powerful. And like it, again, I think that there should be no shame also around the idea that an intoxicating substance may intoxicate us. There's no shame there. Like, it's meant to intoxicate. That's what it does. And so when we, one of the precepts in Buddhism, not that I consider myself a full-on Buddhist, is not to intoxicate ourselves. But when we can take radical responsibility for our feelings, for our thoughts, for our actions, I think there's less of a need to self-medicate or to lubricate, and I just want to offer that as just an idea, something to mull over, something to let marinate. It's that what if I didn't need to marinate?
Yeah. And for me in this space, alcohol's always had a weird feeling for me. I always, from the time I was a little child, like drunkenness and things like that made me feel uncomfortable and itchy inside in others. I just was made that way. So for me, I'll have a couple glasses of wine here or there. And so for me, it's interesting for the sober. I don't feel the need to be sober. So I just want to kind of give voice to that too, because I think, and Kate is not like this, and I'm sure you're not like this, Laura, but like sometimes the sober people can be super judgy and harsh. Mm-hmm. And like, look, me having a glass of wine, I don't use it to lubricate or medicate. It's more like a social fun thing to have a glass of wine with my friend or my husband or whatever. But there's no part of me that the idea that I might consider waking up and being like, I need something, that's like not even part of it. So I think there's space too, to maybe like be sober supportive. And also my sort of adjustment on alcohol really is about sleep. Whereas, I might have one glass of wine in the evening. There's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. But now I might say to myself, oh, is this going to mess with my sleep? Mm-hmm. Is this going to change my sleep cycle? Not because I have a problem, but is this going to affect my tomorrow just because I get less out of this sleep investment, which I already struggle with the sleep investment as it goes. So I think that the alcohol convo is super important. I love the way, and I know it up close, that Kate does this, that is super warm. And this works for me for these reasons. And super, because people say to Kate, like, oh, sorry, I'm having a beer around you. And then she's like, you can bring beer to my house. I don't care. I'm just not going to have it.
I got a whole thing of wine in my garage. Like, yeah.
I think that there's space, especially as in all mom culture, like the memes and the jokes about the wine and all of that. I think it is a good point for us to say, look, there's another way than that. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think that the conversation is really around what serves you individually. And are you being honest? Are you being authentic? And is the, really that's it. And are you taking that responsibility for yourself?
Well, and to quote a really smart lady, do you like your reasons?
Yeah, I literally was thinking that, yes, do you like your reasons? Do you have any other little questions or quips like that, Laura, that are your go-tos besides do you like your reasons? Any other little things that are you?
Oh my God, I'm sure, but I I don't know. And they'll come to me. But I think also I want to just validate what you were saying too, Hannah. Like I there's no judgment for people who drink, even people who drink a lot. I have to say that there's no space in this for judgment. And there's, I have one for you. Whenever you point the finger, there's 3 pointed back at you.
So we like to say, you spot it, you got it.
100%. And so I think any place where you find yourself, I always say to my clients, whatever you feel like that judgment arise within you at somebody else, like that is a moment of information and data about your own needs. right there. And that any judgment you sense, or that I talk about being a hater, we all do it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I don't see somebody on social media sometimes and I'm just like, yeah, you just got the perfect life. And I like, that's a point where like, oh my God, like that came up. All right, that's there. And then I'm like, how can I have that sympathetic joy for this person and hit the love button, and not, I think there's just like this game where we're like withholding likes, or I don't know, but it's just to stop being a hater, and just, again, that offering up of that unconditional love with boundaries that, just giving that, I say sympathetic joy, unconditional love with boundaries, and it's loving kindness, or metta in Buddhism, just that genuine well wish for other people's happiness, even if they didn't give it to you.
Yeah.
I think with the big takeaway from all of this is I love that top 3, and really it's really only one, isn't it? Because if you're dealing with your sleep and you're dealing with your alcohol, you're doing something. It's really only one thing you're saying that takes different forms. To put yourself first. Yeah. And if you do that, you're going to sleep. If you do that, you're going to have an appropriate relationship with alcohol. If you do that, you're going to XYZ. I think that's exactly the point that we're trying to make. And I know for myself, I struggled for so long, but I don't really struggle with this anymore. I only get to live my life through my eyes. So it would be just the dumbest thing you could consider that I never do anything for my own sake. This is only my life. Everybody else has their own, right? And I lived that way for so long, really only the last 6-9 months, maybe a year, that I've started thinking about it. So,
man, I noticed a change in myself recently because Hannah's had a really good impact on me in this way, because I used to be super mom guilt all the time. Mm. And my 10-year-old has been really into doing graphic novels. And I asked them to do a page about our family, like a day in the life of our family. And in this series of cartoons, my husband was depicted as he was on the Peloton, like huffing and puffing and working out, because he's super worky outy guy. And then I was at my desk in this cartoon going, work, work, work. Like my character was shouting work over and over. And the old me would have been like heartbroken that my 10-year-old saw me in that way, a day in the life. But I didn't react that way at all. It was just like very cute, an accurate depiction of a day in the life in our house. And that's the way it is. And it's good, And
I think it's owning your disregard for the should.
Yeah.
Like we should, there is like this idea that you should be the sort of mom who's your kid would draw you like what, making cookies in an apron, doing Play-Doh and like putting their art on the fridge. I'm sorry. I don't want to make cookies. I don't want to make Play-Doh. I don't want to put stuff on my fridge. No part of me wants to do, that's too much. I don't want all that in my space. So like what I like to do is make things happen and create and be busy and bustle around having fun. Mm-hmm. So that looks like work to a kid, right? Like this is, I guess, technically worky, at least work adjacent. And I hope that's what you see. And I hope someday for our kids that you do some sort of work that makes you would choose that over baking cookies and Play-Doh too.
Right. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I saw this meme the other day about like, was it motherhood? And how they so actually devalue motherhood that they say mothers sacrifice so much. They make it such a sacrifice because it's like, what else can you give us? Right. It's like, it has to be, framed in this way as like women, like mothers and women, they're so self-sacrificing because it's such shit work, like that's what they're saying. It's just like, and I think that is such BS. Yeah. I don't buy into it. I don't want those things either. And I sometimes will say, I'm not that kind of a mom. And that's cool if you are. Again, that's cool if you are.
Right.
Again, no judgment. If you want to bake cookies and that's so great. But I like Kate, like you, my daughter seeing me being a busy working mom who, sometimes struggles, I think is giving her an authentic look at what life is like. And what my life is like. And I am not apologetic about it or guilty about it because I like my life. I like what I'm creating. I like how I show up for myself. I like how I show up for my daughter. I don't want to do the Girl Scouts anymore. Well, for a number of reasons. But, I want to be I want to go with my daughter to the Girl Scouts. I don't want to plan the meetings anymore.
Yeah.
Like I just don't, I can be honest about it. It was fun. I love the girls, but I don't have the time or space for it. And I have to make hard decisions. And my daughter needs to see what it's like for her mom to make hard decisions.
And may our daughters and sons grow up in such a way that they are able to ask themselves, what do I want? That's still respectful and makes me like our competing wants. I want to be loyal. I want to be a good person, all these things. So like with all of that in mind, good God Almighty, I wish I would have known a long time ago to ask myself, what do I want? Figure out what that is, and then be as loyal to me as I am to everyone else.
There we go.
And I'm getting a lot better. I'm not gonna keep betraying me. I'm not gonna keep screwing me over for everyone else.
There we go.
I'm just not, I can't tell who these Facebook people are coming. I don't know if any of those are my kids, but like, may they all learn the same from me. Absolutely. We don't want to be a bunch of self-absorbed a-holes, but at the same time, like Miss Laura told us, put yourself first in your own life and show up in a way that's also kind and generous and thoughtful. And, but that doesn't mean you have to forget you. And if we could teach our kids that, like, I don't want to go be the Daisy Troop or Brownies or whatever age Girl Scout person. I'm so happy you want that. I want that for you, love that for you, but not for me.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's the Amy Poehler thing. Great for you, not for me, no judgment. It's all good. But what we're fundamentally talking about right here is called self-compassion. Mm-hmm. It's self-compassion, loving ourselves. And here's another thing that I learned from my coach, Brooke, which is people pleasers are liars.
What?
People pleasers are liars. And I spent many, many years, most of my life, being a people pleaser. So if I could just do for others, right, then they will do for me. And then, of course, when they don't do for me, because, there's never this perfect trade-off, I can be resentful, angry, self-pitying, and then all the ways we're obsequious to other people so that we can get, somehow this fulfilled. And it's not authentic and it's not genuine. When somebody knows now that I'm doing something for them, it's because I genuinely want to. Mm-hmm. I don't do anything out of guilt anymore, right? I do it
like without the strings attached, because I've had an experience in my life recently where someone really kept hearkening back to all the things they'd done for me as sort of justification for forcing me to keep living in a relationship or dealing in a relationship that was too small and wasn't suiting me anymore. And all these reminders of all the things I'd done. And I thought, at the time, it really wasn't a gift, was it? You made a contract. You made a one-party contract with me. I didn't consent to receipt of this help and this gift that I definitely needed at the time, that later you wanted to call it due, right? That wasn't a gift. That was a transaction. And if we don't give without strings, then it's a transaction. And we all know, right? Like with just contract law and stuff, right? And I think if we can get to that place of operating without guilt, we also remove the strings and giving guilt to others. Yeah. And I don't want anybody to do anything for me out of guilt. God, ever. I mean, I say that. I hope I don't live that I want that. I definitely don't want it in my mind. I don't know in my behavior. I hope not.
Well, what we want is for them to want to do the thing.
Yeah.
We don't want to guilt them, but we will use guilt in order to motivate. But that's so icky, right? It's so icky. Like we never want to get what we want through manipulation. Like I think when we really take a hard look at it, it's like, no, I don't want that. I just want the other person to want the exact same thing that I do. But that's not reality. We're arguing with reality. So again, it's respecting those other people's boundaries as well, respecting our own boundaries.
When you start doing boundaries, it's one thing when it's my boundary, but wait, you have a boundary and that applies to me. That's kind of mean. That's how I feel. Well, hey, we're getting close on our time here, Laura. I have enjoyed this so much. I hope that this is only the first of many.
We have to do gold stars.
Oh yeah. We need to do our gold stars. So at the end of each show, we wrap up with, we give each other gold stars for ourselves as moms, lawyers, and people. Kate, I think you were going to go first. I think Kate has a mom gold star this week.
I have a mom gold star. That same kiddo who did the graphic novel is a very artistic child. And they have picked out my outfits every day this week. And it's been very fun for us, including what I have on, accessories and all. And they go in my closet and lay it all out, shoes, the whole thing. And it's been super fun. I've been posting it on social media. And I show my kiddo the post and all the comments from people.
Yeah.
And I just look at their face and like the little smile of pride. Like, it has been a confidence booster for my kid to get all this positive feedback. So anyway, and it's been fun, super fun.
Yeah, we love any way to bring fun into the daily life. What about for you, Laura? Which star did you have this week?
All right, so I have been putting myself first, and then practicing what I preach. Finally, I ran a marathon back in February and have had some hip pain, and I've just been ignoring it for 4, 5, 6 months, and so I finally got a chiropractor, started going to those appointments 3 times a week, going to acupuncture, rejoining up in yoga. So really, really putting myself and my body first in a massive way. So this is like a lot of hours every single week, but for me, for my health and for my future. So I'm very proud of myself.
Awesome. Well, and I'm going to round us out with the gold star for being a lawyer. And it's sort of like a lawyer business owner. I know that you two ladies can appreciate this. I had some challenging things this week where back 9 months ago would have really made me super anxious, super stressed. Like, a former client said something to me last night that would have kept me up at night before. And I just saw that, okay, there's a thing I've got to navigate. There's a potential problem. I examined myself. I didn't do anything wrong. There is a problem I got to handle. And I just kept it super cool. I didn't indulge and it wasn't even hard not to become crazy anxious. I just saw it as, this is today's problem. And this morning I navigated it carefully. I didn't run from it, which is my other way. Like, if there's a problem, kind of run. I didn't run from it. I faced it. I did everything I could do to work on the problem and kept a cool head and didn't let it it really just didn't ever touch my spirit. It was just stayed in my mind. So as like a lawyer business owner, that was my day.
Gold stars.
Yes, gold stars. We need an actual star chart.
Oh, we do.
We should do that for our different guests.
With stickers on the digital planners that they don't have on the.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, I know. Where Kate's. Oh, you just got Kate. There we go. All you got to do is tell Kate to get Kate to do basically anything in life at all. Just give her a little bit of FOMO. So right now, I guarantee you, she's like, I need to figure out how to switch to iPad because I want pretty stickers with yellow glitter on them.
I do want stickers.
I know.
Check out Etsy digital planner stickers. You're done.
On my
the actual planner itself. Well, and Laura, real quick as we wrap up, how can people connect with you, follow you, do your group coaching? Like, how can we connect our squad with your squad?
Awesome. Well, you can find me on TikTok or Instagram at The Joyful Attorney. You can also check out my website, which is www.thejoyfulattorney.com. And then my group coaching program is called Joyful on Demand. So that's thejoyfulattorney.com/joyful on demand. And if you want to try it out free for 1 month, you can use code JOYFUL in all caps. And you can just try it out, see if you like it, and be happy to meet with people one-on-one also.
Awesome. Love it. Thanks for joining us today. Hope everybody has a super great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I love you.
Bye.
Bye.